Today I have an honor again to have a guest today, Dan Willis. Here is the second interview. Today is 6th of June 2020. Interesting numerology. And yeah, we are gonna go in this interview with a more into more depth of what we spoke last time. So yeah, welcome Dan. Welcome again to Consciousness Shift.
Oh, it's wonderful to dig into some of this ancient research that is attempting to be brought into our current scientific understanding and application of the relationship of consciousness with geometry as exemplified through crystals.
Yeah, great. You sum up in one sentence what we will talk today. So let's start by a question. You mentioned from the start on previous interview that you had interaction with a being in 1977. Do you know some origin of that being? What that being taught you? Yeah, can you just say something more in detail about that?
Sure, this is what got me into wanting to research and joining Dr. Marcel Vogel into researching the interface of mind with crystals and water as well, what the interaction was. Um, I had no knowledge of sacred geometry when I had this experience.
Hmm.
This this being with a looked like a rather large head and very loving eyes conveyed in space a sphere in which I observed the sphere. It changed in geometry, like a star tetrahedron first formed, and another geometry within that one, and another one to that one, and most people understand what this is. It's the Platonic solids going into infinity, and
Hmm.
then the sphere turned back into a perfect sphere again. And what the being was attempting to teach me something, as far from what I could gather, it was kind of like a I had millions of volts of electricity going through my hands and feet, what people describe as a Kundalini experience.
Mm-hmm.
The apparently what when you think about within a sphere, you have a star tetrahedron, you have a hexahedron, isosahedron, the dodecahedron, all these geometries, one links to the other, and each one is operating on a different frequency, and this
Mm-hmm.
relates to consciousness. And it was, it may have been just metamorphical, if that's even a word, that was being conveyed to me, but it left a burning desire to try to understand what this was all about. And so the one scientist that was working with this in a quantitative way was Dr. Marcel Vogel. That set up a full, he was IBM's head scientist for like 27 years. He had hundreds of patents that he developed. He set up a laboratory that electron microscopes, spectrophotometers, fully equipped laboratory in order to quantify the energies of mind interacting with water and quartz. And many things were quantified way before Dr. Emoto discovered that our energies of mind, when you flash freeze the water crystal, captures the patterning of the energetic patterns of mind.
Yeah.
All thoughts are geometrical.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm currently working in school as a psychologist. That is one of my jobs, and I always say to my m- professors of math, like my colleagues, I always tell them like arithmetic. It is like just a code language that describes geometry. Like, look around yourself. Everything is geometry. Like, all shapes and forms. Like, children, and like, especially in education, then like in elementary school, high school, and then in university, if you have math, they are teaching you Euclidean geometry
Yeah.
with the straight forms like triangle, and then like hexagon, maybe with circle, and then they go to 3D, uh, 3D geometry like pyramid, or like different, like a ball, sphere. but but yeah, everything around us in nature is geometry.
Yeah.
So
It's
arithmetic is just,
mathematical,
yeah.
with numbers, and the numbers relate to geometries.
Yes, saying that, by saying that, um how you comment the fact that when you see the circle, it has 360 degrees, right? 3 plus 6 is 9. Then you split it, it's 180 degrees. 1 plus 8 is 9. And then 90 degrees, and then 45 degrees. 4 plus 5 is 9. And then when you split even that, you get 22.5, which is again numerology of 9.
Right.
Is that connected to consciousness? Are those consciousness pattern you mentioned?
Yeah, absolutely. It's no accident that 360 degrees, operates with like a hexagonal. The matrix that we're operating in has a tetrahedral hexagonal nature to it. That's why quartz and water both have tetrahedral hexagonal geometries and interface with the geometries of mind.
Wow. um, can you just shortly comment um, on fact that you told that the more sides the crystal is cut, the more spin it has, the more power it has.
Yeah, well, it doesn't. It's not. More sides is necessarily better, or more energy is better. It's a matter of different, uh, different, different frequencies of spin going through the crystal. The crystal through the c-axis, as it grows, the energy spirals. That's how you have left and right-handed crystals. It's a
Mm.
spiraling motion. What Marcel did was he cut the crystal to act as a cohering device. He originally was working with a natural crystal. Now, everybody who's listening can use a natural crystal just as well as a Vogel crystal, but a Vogel crystal is uh, he had a dream, and he had saw the tree of life, and the tree of life, if you understand the Kabbalah,
Mm.
at the very top you have the unmanifest, or Godhead, or that which is the universal source, whatever terminology you want to use, and then it comes down into different dimensions and comes into the earthly manifestation, from Kether to Malkuth, and uh, and so you have one side that is a 52-degree angle, which is the natural angle of quartz, which also relates to the golden mean, which is the one geometry that goes into infinity, is the same angle as in the Great Pyramid in Giza. And the
Hmm.
other side, you have a more acute angle, which is the projecting male end. One is the female universal end, and the other is the projecting uh, male end, the more acute angle that you work with.
Hmm.
Um, and so it is like a laser, where you have two mirrors, and you have a ruby crystal in the middle, and a photon flash excites the crystal, and then the mirrors are set so that they are at a particular wavelength, so that the oscillation, as it reflects back and forth, it builds with each subsequent reflection, And that is how a laser can take light and become so powerful that one side of the mirror is 99% reflective and the other is 100% reflective. And the 1% that comes out can cut through steel, you know, you know, that's because of why? Because of coherence. Marcel always used to say that these energies that we're working with are akin to those that we are familiar with in regular physics. And
Yeah,
so when you have a coherent thought, when your thought is pure and coherent, it has a power to affect change much more so than a incoherent thought.
exactly. Yeah, well said. Um, when it comes to material for those crystals, it can be made from Himalayan, like such as this one, or it can be made by Lemurian, such as this one. By the way, I'm using Fogel crystal. Like this one is Fogel cut, but I am also using natural crystals. And now Marcel told in one of his lectures that there is nothing wrong with natural crystals, but they are not so coherent as you said. So when you cut in a specific geometry, it just directs the energy more clearly. But natural crystals also can be used, but then it comes to question of modality. It's a different modality, and you use the different parts of the brain.
Yeah, it's not to diminish the power of a natural crystal. Cultures all over the world, Native Americans in India and all over the world, people have been using natural crystals. The same
Mm.
principles are there. Uh, it it functions the same way. It's just the what Marcel did with by cutting them was to try to uh, have a greater degree of coherence in a laser like with when you have double terminations, where you have reflections, similar to the laser where you have two mirrors. You have different facets on both sides of the crystals so that you have this reflection of energy going back and forth, as well as spiraling down through the crystal. But a
Mm.
natural crystal is very effective to use. Um, I wrote out some fundamental principles I
Mm-hmm.
may share with you that
Yeah, sure.
I feel is good to. Then we will go over the actual process of healing and some techniques. Um, here are some thoughts of fundamental principles, and one is that we create with the intention of our heart and mind. Energy follows thought. Everything that we think as think we believe becomes because we're creative. We're these beings of male and female that are within the between our left and right hemispheres. We have the pineal gland, and it's kind of like it's the creative force, the masculine, feminine within us is the creative force that allows creation to occur. All forms are consciousness oscillating to give the appearance of forms. Scientists have found that, when they look at electron microscope and they look at particles and things, they find out that it's not really physical matter you're looking at, but rather standing wave patterns that create the appearance of physical matter, but it's actually the standing wave patterns of oscillations that are occurring.
Yeah.
Uh, all is multidimensional in harmonics that extend from our soul pattern. Our soul pattern is perfect, but as we come into physical form, we can, through karmic lessons and things going through our life, we can cause disruptions, into our lower physical form. Love is the only power in the universe. It is
Mm-hmm.
the integrative force that holds matter in form. The higher patterns from our soul forms the lower patterns. You can, if you, when you, the thing about crystals is they allow you to work and act as a dimensional bridge into the higher harmonics of our being. And when you make changes there, it makes changes to the lower 3D, so to speak, physical form. In other words, you make a change at a higher harmonics and the physical, it's like you pull the rug out from under it and it changes. It does not have the same effect when you change the physical, does not affect the higher programming form. So
Mm.
it's that relationship. Breath, as we breathe, it transfers information in and out of our body. As we inhale, the thoughts and things that we take, as we inhale, we're bringing in information that's being patterned. As we exhale, we're writing and programming information as we exhale with the breath. And as you well know, when Marcel was working with a plant with a script chart recorder, he found that if he did a slow release, you'd see the needle go like this and like that. But when he was studying pranayama yoga, when he found that he would do a sharp pulse through his breath like that,
Mm.
the chart went whoo way off the chart like that. And so what that means is that the pulse breath has an ability to have a much greater information transfer. Um, and let's see, I'm looking at my notes here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, and these energies that as we are thinking, as we're projecting, they are geometric in nature. They are, Dr. Emoto was able to capture, people who have like thoughts of hate and anger and like some of the terrible things going on the
Yeah,
planet
the
today.
structure looks distorted, very grayish
It
black.
discordant when you have feelings of love, gratitude, appreciation, or a prayer. There's this beautiful structuring that occurs, and the higher the structuring, in other words, that of love versus fear or hate, has more of an alignment with this matrix that we are in, this matrix of love.
Mm.
And the between water and quartz, water has this, as they discovered in the deep core samples, that all major 7 classes of all geometries that are in nature are exhibited in water. Why is this so? Because of the geometrical structuring of the molecules of water is hexagonal and tetrahedral like quartz, and the information is exchanged between water and quartz through angular harmonic resonance. Now, the quartz is, as you know, is grown in a 52-degree angle, 51
Yeah.
degrees, 52 minutes, 51 minutes, 14 seconds to be precise, but roughly 52 degrees. And then water has intermolecular binding angles at half that and twice that, which uh, are in, like electronics, you have a frequency at 1 pulse, you'll have harmonics that are half and double that. And in those harmonics, just as in radio broadcasts, the information is transferred on these harmonics, and that's how quartz can transfer to water. And that's how Marcel was able to change thousands of gallons of wine by putting in a fine finished wine vibration into the crystal, spinning the wine, which has water in it. Everything has water. Our bodies are mostly water. And it
Mm.
transfers that information and transforms the wine into a California award-winning wine by doing so. Um, Angular harmonic resonance is important to understand how this works. It is the fundamental basis of radionics. When you have a circle and you were to have an angle in that circle of 360 degrees, by tuning that angle, you can tune into anything in the universe. Everything has an angular harmonic resonance. That's how the information is transferred from the quartz into the water. And the crystal is cut actually to a harmonic rate of 454, which is resonant with water. It's important to be resonant with water because it is the universal, and so is quartz. It's a universal resonant to all geometries in nature. In other words, all geometries of mind, all geometries as formed in ice core samples is, this has been a proven fact. Um, the coherence of mind energy through the crystal acts like a laser-like projection of the structure. And let's see, I go down here to the last of the notes here. There is a amplification of your thoughts. Why? As Marcel used to say, that these energies are akin to those we know in regular physics. In regular physics, when you have a phased array antenna, you have, in other words, you have all these little antennas, and they are all within a phased relationship of each other of a certain wavelength, and you have this pattern multiplied, similar to the crystal lattice structure that is within the crystal. What happens is an amplification. In physics, you have like a 3 dB increase for every antenna segment. So 3 dB times 3 dB times 3, and it amplifies. And so, and and the and the structure is fractal. It goes into a micro and macrocosmic structuring of this lattice structure. In other words, it connects to multiple dimensions in doing so. And the energy, as it spirals through the crystal, this is the means of coupling to multiple dimensions. As people are familiar with the Earth grid, where you have the geometry the Russians discovered, the dodecahedron grid, and as let's see, what was his name? Uh, anyway, that there's all throughout the whole planetary system. Um, you have a star tetrahedron within every single planetary body, even the sun, where the sunspots are. You have at this 19.45 degree angle is right where the tips of this crystal, the star tetrahedral crystal, is inside of every planetary body. And other geometries connect to that. And where these geometries connect, they find there's vortexes. They're energy vortexes. And these
Mm.
vortexes have uh, a spinning vortexal nature to it. And this is how the energy is transferred from one frequency geometry to the next, is through the spinning action of where the geometries connect, these nodal points, like in the Platonic solids as they go into infinity. This is how they couple from one to the next through this vortexal action. All matter records patterns of energy and to different degrees of permeability. If you have a crystal or metal, it will record and hold that pattern much longer than, say, something that is like an insulator, like glass or wood.
Mm.
Everything holds patterns, but some have a greater degree of permeability of holding patterns, just as our bones in our body has a piezoelectric ability. And so when you have a trauma or impact, uh, that impact into your body is recorded on a certain level and keeps playing back, and that discordant pattern unless acted upon. And then a quartz is a piezoelectric transducer. When you squeeze the crystal, it exerts a physical pressure on it that offsets it's like Pythagoras used to have a six-pointed star with a dot in the middle, he called the star of creation. The
Mm-hmm.
lattice structure within the quartz is essentially the same thing, except that dot in the middle is made up of the charge triads of the negative and positive, or male and female, whatever you want to call. And when you squeeze the crystal, what happens is these two charge triads, imagine two triangles interfacing. What happens is these charge triads that are offset, by offsetting, we're normally neutralized, but when they're offset, it creates a polarity. And you have trillions of these being offset, it creates a voltage uh,
Mm.
on the crystal. And this is one of how crystals are used in broadcast transmitters and transducers. Like, you have them cut to a particular, and they exert a small electrical charge, and the crystal oscillates at that frequency precisely because of its piezoelectric ability. When I was a kid, I used to build my own radio transmitters, and I used to take a crystal from my transmitter and I'd put it on my mother's mirror with some toothpaste, and I would grind it like that, and I would change the frequency of it. Then I'd put it back
Ah,
in my transmitter, and now it would be operating at a higher frequency because I made the crystal just a little bit smaller. So,
wow.
you know, so these are some fundamental concepts that I wanted to go over regarding the crystals and the energies of mind, and also how the entire universe is geometric and
Yeah.
holographic and fractal. As we discovered when we worked with the Delaware camera, was using a drop of blood from somebody. They could be anywhere in the universe. Uh, there is no All points in time and space are interconnected. There is no, at a certain level, there is no separation. Everything is interconnected. And so when you are able to attune, and with this radionic camera, which we would turn the dials at an angular resonance and become in
Mhm.
resonance with that person, the camera would, we had audio oscillators. It would project into space a three-dimensional pattern in space, of which we were able to capture with a photographic plate the images of that. And what was fascinating was we were able to go backwards and forwards into time using a time spiral. So the the probable future and the past are the past and the future are like kind of embedded into the moment, so to speak, and are attunable to, as some science projects have discovered.
Wow. Yeah, that's really wow. Like science actually got to that point to see like there are actually from this moment any of the timelines are accessible to us with our consciousness. And by the way, I just want to do a quick um, comparison. Yeah, like to compare um, in crystal alchemy and in alchemy in general, there are a lot of laws or fundamentals, as you said, say that are that are pretty fit with each other. For example, masculine and feminine. For our viewers, for example, take base, sacral, and solar plexus. These are yang chakras or masculine chakras because they are lower, they are connected to the earth. So the triangle that they form is like this.
Mhm.
Then
Right.
you have the heart chakra, which is very specific thing because it's in between. So the mixture between yin and yang energy is happening in heart chakra. After I will demonstrate something with how you can work with heart chakra and crystal together. So if you go above throat, um, third eye, and crown, they are feminine chakras because they're connected to heaven, which is masculine. So they they form different triangle.
Yeah, the upper three chakras, from the heart up is the upper triad or tetrahedron, and the lower chakras below from the heart down are the lower triad. And together they form a star tetrahedron, which around our own energy body,
Mm.
with the heart at the center.
And yeah, if you've seen in the nature, everything has a positive and negative, or masculine and feminine, I like to call
Yes.
52 and 26-degree angle. They are creating charge. Uh, in body psychotherapy, I don't know whether you know it or not, but front part of our body is connected to masculine because it goes forward, and back is feminine. Left side of the body is related to feminine, while right is more masculine side. So uh, everything has their own, like the hemispheres of the brain as well.
Absolutely.
So that
As in,
that's about the masculine and feminine, and about the thought. And Lester Levinson, the teacher of Sedona method and letting go, he used to say, think just what you want to get it, and you will get it. So it's like if you hold at negative patterns, you should let it go. Otherwise, that should be manifested into reality, and you will not live the life you want, ultimately. But if you let go of all these negative patterns, which he demonstrated, and you think and focus your mental energy just on what you want, you will get just that. So, a lot of fundamental principles are interconnected, and in every alchemy, there are the same things over and over again.
yes. Every instant we are recreating ourselves, and it's true. For every action, there's an exact and opposite reaction. For everything there is an exact is not. So everything that's male, there is a female. You cannot the two have to the yin yang have to coexist. Um,
And
with
everything exists at the same time.
Yeah, and it's fractal, just like
Mm.
in your hand or even in your earlobe or any part of your body is the entire body. You have a fractal connection to every, it's reflexology and, palmistry, every type of science. Every part of the body, as the Chinese have mapped, with acupuncturists, has connections to every part of the body. Everything's fractal.
Mm.
Um, with what was I going to say? We could go over some of the procedures that Marcel was going over on crystal healing, if you wish.
Sure, it will be my pleasure.
But I love being able to talk about you know the philosophy of
I mean,
the
if you
whole
want
process.
the procedures, we can leave it to an end of this interview. Now, I would like to move on for the next subject, and that is
Yes.
because you mentioned you were a alternative vehicle producer. So what awakens interest in me is this topic about the cars. So we have in alchemy and every engineer's dream is to create perpetuum mobile um, uh, once in his life. So we have these cars that goes to electricity and alternatively they can be charged with the solar panels. And from the other side, like Tesla proved that car also can go on water as well. It doesn't need any other energy source. So, question for you as an engineer: what is more probable for mass production, and when will it happen? Solar panels, car that goes on solar panels, or car that goes on water?
Well, I can speak well on that subject because I had many years' experience firsthand with many scientists and inventors. You know,
Uh
one
huh.
of our team was working with the leftover laboratory equipment of Stan Meyer. Stan Meyer was able to create patents to be able to run vehicles off of water.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he was poisoned, and
Uh-huh.
the team that our team attempted to put a bid in for all his laboratory equipment to get it. Another team had more money and over, I think they were in England, and all the members of the team have mysteriously died.
Uh-huh.
It's had a long history of suppression that going all the way back to the Invention Secrecy Act of 1951. Solar panels, uh, they're fairly inefficient. Zero point energy has been developed many decades ago. Uh, yeah, we don't need to run although, it would be a great transitional technology since we have billions of these automobiles that run on gasoline. It'd be a simple
Mm-hmm.
conversion to convert them to run on hydrogen. Uh, and then when it has, internal combustion engine is like so antiquated, it has a million moving parts. It,
Yes.
it basically self-destructs after a while. You want
Uh-huh.
something simpler. Electric vehicles are great, but you have to charge them up. And when you think about, we're charging them with electricity that is using nuclear power, using coal plants, or all these dangerous, polluting, obsolete technologies, when we could have a little zero-point energy device that could be put into the vehicle, that the vehicle never needs to be plugged in. It always has power. And once all the internal combustion engines are either retrofitted or scrap metal, and everything goes electric. I mean, electric vehicles, it's quieter, they're much higher performance.
Mm.
Um, and as far as that goes, we have these roads all over the place. And we have these power lines all over the place, both of which we could actually do away with, because we have anti-gravity developed back in October of 1954. NASA was basically infiltrated by the Nazis and kept us believing that we've needed rockets in order to overcome the gravitational pull of the Earth when we've already discovered the torsion physics. Nazi Germany developed it back in 1934. We were 20 years behind. That's how they were able to intimidate the Truman and Eisenhower administration. And
Mm-hmm.
basically take our legal constitutional government out of the loop by this rogue element. But that goes into a whole nother show in itself.
No, no, but you know what is interesting? As you know, I was uh, weeks ago a guest in a Super Soldier Talk by James Rink, and we are there. We are talking about secret space programs, about different alien races. Uh, I don't have any information about scientific point of view and how scientists got to that point, but I got that by meditation a lot, and by accessing my DNA memory and stuff like that. For example, I'm Andromedan. There are different races, for example, Dracos and Greys, who are negatives, and there are negative current of Anunnakis, and then you have some neutral races like a huge mantis, or let's say neutral Anunnakis, and then you have a
Insectoid, yeah.
positive, yes, and then you have a positive forces like Lemurians, Andromedians, Orions, uh, Lemurians, like all different class of angels and stuff. Yeah,
Fortunately, most
I
of
would
them are
like to for
benevolent.
you to shed some light on it. Like,
Well, I
do you
was
have
saying,
some experience?
fortunately, most of them are benevolent, although, they've been trying to, the secret cabal has been attempting to bring about an alien false flag agenda where they have the technology to pull it off with their, craft and
Hmm.
also holographic technologies they've been wanting to do some time. But the majority of the races out there are either benign or benevolent, but there are some that are not, that are
Hmm.
predatory in nature. And the good news is that the more advanced races that are benevolent have much higher advanced technology than the other races that are predatory. So, but there are certain universal laws in place that have to be adhered to. And so, it's, you know, I, uh, I think it's a good idea, to ever so often know that they are out there. Some of the people like yourself and probably others have seen them, either in the skies or had an interaction experience with these beings,
Mm.
and that we put forth asking if they can assist with our challenges here on this planet, as we also, since this is a participatory universe, we are rewriting the future projected timeline that we're experiencing. And
Mm.
therefore, it's good to visualize the most benevolent outcome of I see the forces of dark and light right now appear to be escalating
Mm.
because there is you know their secrecy structure and everything's about to be exposed. And so they're doing everything possible through their methods of deception in order to keep the masses of the population uh, perceiving a particular way and to give their consent in a particular way. It's very important what we give our consent to, and we have to have informed consent. We have to know what it is that we're giving consent to. And this is one of those universal laws. And so, I just see an incredible transformation of humankind on this planet. But it's going to go through some transformational growing pains, it appears.
Yeah, yeah. Even my development psychology professors in university, like they used to say, development hurts. Like, if you want to grow, you need to get out of your comfort zone. That thing I always used to repeat to my students and to my clients. And like if I say, okay, like don't trust me anything I say, as you say, this universe is experimental. So if you want to stay like that and don't feel the pain because it hurts, then you will stay like that and you will get even worse. But if you're willing to just to just work on yourself, to just feel uncomfortable a little bit, because the comfort will just keep you in place where you are. But if you're willing to step up out of the comfort zone, that is the growth. And as you say, the misfortune brings opportunities. So yeah, just keep on and do it. Like if you feel that something something you should not do, you should definitely do it, because it triggers something inside of you, right?
It's important, we're connected through our higher self, and it's communicating to us in a gentle way, our intuition all the
Mm,
time, and it's important to, just like you do with your different healing processes, there are certain fundamentals that we've talked about that you incorporate in your healing process. And I think it's, Marcel had a very specific protocols that he did with the healing process. I took those fundamentals and, with uh, knowing my own intuitive ways of doing it, you kind of make it your own, so to speak. And you know what works based on the fundamentals. And I
mm,
think it's important that people understand the fundamentals. Once you understand the fundamentals, you can make the process your own. Uh, but
exactly.
it, but it's important to look at some of the things that he was doing and see what fundamentals were at play in the healing process when he was working with 24 medical doctors and had incredible success. I've witnessed things dematerialize before my very eyes, actually transformed on a higher level the discordant pattern and was able to pull it out. When you're able to pull that pattern out, instantaneous healing occurs. I mean, like magic. It seems like like some kind of magic that happens, but it's actually understanding science. What
Mm,
we're working with is the science of the future. We are at a infantile state, but I know in these deep black government projects that they have advanced this and know how to augment conscious interface to a much greater degree and understand these mechanisms. But we are still at a place of looking at these things as like, wow, this is like woo woo, isn't it? Like the thing with crystals, but it has opened up. When you looked at over the decades, when I was involved with Marcel in the early 1980s, people would
mm-hmm.
look at you like kind of like, crystals, this new agey, woo wooey kind of stuff. But now,
Yeah.
as more science has evolved and more indicators is showing that there's a valid science behind this that hasn't been fully quantified, and
Yeah, but
and
I always had approach to experiment. Like no matter how appears to be weird, just do it, try it. Like if you can, to control some conditions, like to control some variables in a, let's say, scientific blueprint, then you will see how those factors are changing. And as you says, then you got the feedback like, okay, now it worked, now it didn't. Why
right.
it didn't work now, but it worked before? What I did differently, and how the factors are changing. And then if you're willing to experiment and check out for yourself, then eventually you will get better.
Yes.
Um,
Because
So,
as you see, you believe, you know, and if you get feedback to form your belief then has the creative power it's like this feedback loop of creation. That's every microsecond is being repatterned and formed. But if you can go into your higher aspect, your higher self, you can see almost like in between the like like frames of a movie, you can see in between the pulses of creation of what you are creating. But in the normal, reality that most people are in, this looks like, this is just everything appears, solid, and everything appears to be, but it's actually oscillating molecules that are formed through a collective conscious mind of this agreed upon reality that we're participating in.
wow, yeah, really well told. Yeah, it actually is like that. And I had a lot of hours of meditation, and it is shown to me how this so to say dense and hard matter is not dense and hard at all. It's, as you say, everything is it can be influenced with. So yeah, can you just now show some technique for the end of this interview?
Okay, I will, because I don't, because you're just seeing me here, and all I can do is hold a crystal. I don't have somebody in front of me, to do this with, but I'll just do it over very briefly because I know we're running out of time, um, in the limitless time. Okay, the process. The first thing people have done with the Vogel healing technique is, as Marcel originally showed, is you have to take the crystal and you have to release any programs that are previously in it, because the crystal holds the program. So you have to clear it. You hold it like that, and with intention. It's important to understand intention is what makes this happen. And with the breath, with the intention of clearing, and then rotate the facet like that. Okay, now the crystal is clear. And now, once the crystal is clear, now you need to link the crystal to yourself. So the crystal becomes an extension of you. In other words, it's almost like the E.T. craft, where the craft is actually an extension of the pilot. They can direct where they want to fly the craft by, because the craft and the pilot are one. And so you
Yeah.
become one with the crystal, and you rotate it. Marcel was like, rotate it in a clockwise direction. And
Hmm.
as you're rotating it, kind of squeeze and rub the crystal. And what happens is, as we talked earlier about the piezoelectric quality of the crystal, it actually develops a charge and actually becomes, the surface of it becomes a little sticky.
Hmm.
And that shows that the crystal is being linked with you. Then what you want to do is, once you've linked yourself with the crystal, is to put a charge in the crystal, with just like you did with the clearing, only, and that starts the crystal oscillating. And then when you're working with the person, you tune into the thymus gland. The thymus gland is about 3 fingers or so, about right here.
Hmm.
Okay. And what you do is you tune in. I'll say my hand is the thymus gland. When you come into it with a crystal, you turn the crystal counterclockwise. And the reason for that is that so you can have a full turn clockwise once you get into it. This
Mm.
is the angular harmonic resonance. Marcel used to call this the critical rotational angle. At one particular, it's like tuning into a radio set. And what you're doing is you're tuning into each one of us, according to our DNA frequency, has a particular vibrational frequency. And what we're doing is we're tuning it just like a radionic dial. on a
Mm-hmm.
instrument. We're tuning it and using your, like say the person's here and my left hand is over here and the crystal's here. It's acting as a closed loop. I'm projecting here, receiving here, and as I turn clockwise, I will feel in my left hand and I will meet a resistance and you'll feel it. If you do this a number of times and you have a lot of experience with the work you've done, you'll notice that it will it will it will almost it'll stop. You'll be attuned and you'll feel the energy when you're tuned into the person. Okay. Once you've done that, you kind of Marcel suggested, taking a deep breath in and about letting a half breath out, and then what you do is you sync with the person. Here, now you're linking with the person. You're breathing in sync. As the person inhales and exhales, you're breathing with them. You're synchronizing. You're linked into the energy field and you're synchronized with them through the breath. You're both breathing and here's the important process of the procedure. Once and part of this is important because what you're doing as you're breathing in prana, you're breathing in the energy as oxygen and the hemoglobin in the lungs converted into the energy that your body uses. You can't work on somebody where their energy is completely depleted, they can't do anything. They have to have a certain level of energy. And once you're up to a particular level of energy, um, you have, it's said in ancient times, ask and you shall receive, right? And when you have the person ask to go into their mind's eye and with their heart as well, uh, to go to the source of discord whatever their injury is, whatever the trauma is, it doesn't matter what it is, but ask to be shown what is the root cause, what is the source, and it can come in any form, just innocently. Don't try to read too much in it. Don't try to get the mind into the process. Just take the first as it comes to you, and and then what you do is you breathing in and out with a person, and then you have the person, and the person has to be participatory in this process. They can't be like, okay, heal me, that you're
Mm.
basically being nothing more than a facilitator for them. They have to be a participant in this. They have to be willing to do it. And so if they want to release this, they will go in with their mind's eye, lock onto it at the intake of the breath. And at the intake of the breath, they got their mind locked onto it. Remember the breath, inhale and exhale has an information transfer process. And then release like that with a pulse. And what happens is in that critical process, a whole lot of things are going on. One, you're pulling the energy, that pattern, that because you're linked in with the person, you're pulling that
Mm.
with your left hand and snapping and breaking it with your right hand, this disrupting that pattern and pulling it out that's been causing you're basically erasing a discordant pattern, and then you can't leave a void there without bringing in the integrative power of love. The person needs to feel love for themselves, breathe in, and a lot of times Marcel would take the crystal and put it up here near the thymus to help bring in that balance, and he would do another process of linking the chakras together. And the main thing is that your your um, your intention of love, unconditional love for the person to be healed, plays a role in this whole process. And I've just seen, amazing transformation. It's not nothing, it's no, kudos to the healer. It's
Mm,
basically you're assisting that person. Everybody has the ability to heal themselves, like this.
exactly. We are just instrument of God's peace and healing and love.
Right, right. It's love is the healing force, and with the crystal being able to go to bridge dimensions, because what happens is at a higher pattern, this discordant pattern is keeps rebroadcasting itself. But until you can go into a higher dimensional level, which the crystal acts as a multi-dimensional transducer in order to bridge these dimensions, clear that program out, and then through love bring the person back into a whole place. And I've seen amazing transformations, not only physical effects, but
Mm,
all of a sudden, oh, the pain is gone. It's like I was working with Marcel as more of a experimental research scientist, you could say, trying to understand what was going on with these processes. And I've done healing a number of times with different people in different situations. What I found what worked really well was people who had back injuries or broken bones and things like that. They, because of the nature of the piezoelectric quality of these patterns that were locked in there, are able to be removed. It all of a sudden the discordant pattern that was in place um, is now deleted, so to speak, and the original pattern, which stems from our soul through the vehicle of love, is then restored, and the person is, as they say, healed.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, like I really feel now charge, really, and my crown is buzzing and spreading. Yeah. So to all our viewers, I would like to just send the love and all the great things to just help them in their advancement. So yeah,
Yeah.
just
Oh, a hug is very important. Just express, your love for the being, and in this world of 6 feet apart and masks and pandemics and riots and everything like that. Here we're doing a little course on crystal healing.
sure, why not? So
Why not?
what I learned from Marcel is actually you breathe in, so you got all information around the world as you say what's happening, and just breathe out into the crystal and just start waving. By the way, I don't feel it's a good idea to cover the top, the tip,
No,
because it blocks the energy.
correct.
So just breathe in and wave. I used to wave like to do the wave movement from the elbow. Just think the well-being for all people. Feel and see the earth advancing. All people are healthy and happy, full of joy, a lot of light, a lot of prana all around. So breathe in from your diaphragm.
Yes, yes. All the
Exactly,
discordant.
and you multiply that.
Yes, yeah. It's like all the deceptions and discordant things and out of harmony with the universal mind are being revealed, transformed, and the world is able to evolve unimpeded in its spiritual and technological progress forward on this timeline in the most benevolent way. And so mote it be, and so it is.
Wow, thank you, Dan. And yeah, next time we could perhaps talk about more in depth about the SSP and the Nazis and stuff. Because since I was speaking and being a guest in a show, the Super Soldier Talk, I accessed a lot of my memories. I used to be on Venus working. Like they basically took my mind and my abilities from my body and swept me into the some working body working on Venus. Really interesting stuff going on. I'm just in a process of recovering these. The informations you brought up about the Nazis lying, and they have a like anti-gravitational technology since 1934 is amazing. Thank you for that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
looking forward to see you next time.
Our planet's been hijacked. If the listeners want to understand more about that, online, it's not a professional site. It's just my online notes, thewebmatrix.net, and notes on Marcel Vogel is marcelvogel.org, and it goes into the whole relationship that I discovered over the years. The entire universe is fractal, holographic, and geometric. And
Yeah.
we are all one mind.
Yes, and once you do this stuff, you really feel it. Like you really see it, like through all dimensions. It's amazing. So thank you for
Yeah.
today, Dan.
Ah,
I hope I'm gonna see you uh, at least once again. And yeah,
I look forward to
all the
doing it
best.
again. I appreciate minds like yours that I've seen there's wisdom and value in this science that is ancient, that goes back to the times of Atlantis.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.